Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
We rolled down here to 49 West, and on the first day of session, actually, so we got all the pesky legislators running around and trying to figure out, all the newbies trying to figure out this town, which takes a little bit here. But we were sitting here with Tim McArdle and Toni Strong-Pratt, and we've spoken with Toni in the past a couple times, back when she was running for city council. And you have certainly not let any moss grow on, what's the phrase there, moss grow on your feet or whatever it is since then. And Tim McArdle and I have crossed paths for probably 8 or 9 years, but have never met, which is really kind of cool. And it's always fun to meet somebody that you haven't met. But Tim contacted me and said that he and Toni have partnered up on a nonprofit called Geeks on God. And what I know from Toni and what I know from Tim is got the geek background.
Yes, 40 years.
and we'll throw the God background on Toni, but possibly on both. But this is kind of a neat concept in that you're taking refurbished or new or
we take donated equipment, and as long as it's viable, I refurbish it. And then for the last 4 years now, I think, believe it or not.
Yeah.
A lot of the donations that we get from Geeks on God have gone to Toni's outfit, and she gives them out as graduation accomplishments, right? And then I provide support and training. I haven't really had to tap that often, but it's there going forward. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this after Christmas was in case Santa Claus got anybody any laptop upgrades, because Geeks on God has no inventory right now. So I could use some laptops to refurbish and get in the queue.
All PCs or PC Apple, doesn't matter?
Well, I've donated some Apple stuff to Toni. I'm primarily a PC guy.
Sorry about that.
Goes both ways. But I've been doing this for 40 years. What do I know? But it's been 100% refurbished PC laptops. Windows 7 and above is the bare minimum that I can really make happen.
Okay. So Geeks on God, is that you, Tim?
It is me and one other fellow in North Carolina right now. He used to be here, but he's moved to North Carolina. But
okay. It's
just the two of us, and we don't do just this. We give out machines and laptops to anyone in need. In fact, COVID created a unique opportunity for us.
Oh, my word, yes.
In that there were so many parents sitting at home now having to have provision for their children to have the ability to do homeschool or virtual school. And a lot of them had laptops lying around in the basement that had been gathering dust for a long time, and they weren't sure whether they're viable or not. And COVID caused me to have almost no face-to-face ministry whatsoever. So it was a great opportunity. I started advertising on the local forums in London Town and Edgewater, if you need help with this. And we solved a lot of problems with families that had multiple children that were all in contention for one computer. And if it was a viable enough computer, I was able to, through our resources, refurbish that thing and get each one of the kids their own virtual school laptop. And a lot of times these Chromebooks that they were giving these kids were not real functional.
Chromebooks were never functional to start with.
So I had many families come up to me and just thank me and want to give me money and whatnot, and just say, you've made a dynamic change in our family structure because of all the pressures with COVID and everything else. And I'm like, brother, you've already paid me by giving me the opportunity to help you guys. That's all I need.
That's awesome.
It was a wonderful positive that came out of COVID through that. And then,
I sit here and I look back at my life, and I'm thinking, how 30, 40, 50 years ago would we ever think that a thing that we play games on would be able to change a life.
And I was told solved a lot of contention issues. They're all at home now. They're all in the same house space, and then they're fighting over who gets the computer next. And so, God closes a door and opens a door, and that's exactly where that happened. And
it was
helped
like me and
a
my
lot.
sister on the telephone. You get on.
You actually started using it?
Back in the day, I need the phone. Get off. Wow, no. Do you have a website for this?
I do not.
Not yet?
No, I'm not really planning on it, man. It's kind of a
word of mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need it to get that big. It's word of mouth, and this is a great opportunity to get it out there a little bit.
How do we get in touch with you to give you a laptop? Me?
That's a good question. Yeah, through you right now.
Okay.
So.
Call me, email me, or something like that, and I can put you in touch with Tim for sure.
And I'm on Facebook, and I'm publicly searchable, so you can find me there.
Awesome. Well, and you have refurbished and repurposed laptops to give to Toni's organization, which is my sister's keeper, and it's not sisters, it's Sistah. Sort of like Angel.
My organization is People Builders Consulting.
Okay.
So that's the umbrella. MSK is under People Builders Consulting, which is my sister's keeper. And basically, My Sister's Keeper is a women empowerment initiative that focuses on helping women transition from dependency to self-sufficiency, whatever that means. Because when we look at dependency to self-sufficiency, we mean getting off of governmental assistance. Well, some people are off of governmental assistance, but some people have addictions. So how do I go through the process to get free of addiction and get into the recovery process? So we help women where they are to help them to move from their now to their next. We started in 2020. From the research that I've done out in the communities, we found out that during COVID that a lot of people lost jobs. A lot of kids couldn't go to the doctors because they lacked PCs, computers, or Chromebooks. So when we put this program together, we decided that at graduation, everybody will receive a Chromebook.
Okay, you just blew my mind because I didn't think of that. Most doctors went to virtual type exams and appointments, and without a computer or a laptop or a tablet, you're out of luck as far as being able to get medical treatment because everyone was saying don't go to the doctors.
Yes.
I mean, not, obviously when you needed to go to the doctor, you went to the doctor, but not unnecessarily. And when they graduate out of the program?
So they graduate, it's an 8-week program. Facilitated with 8 weeks of facilitation, which is derived out of the information that we got from doing listening sessions out in the community. We deal with the little girl inside of you. We deal with moving from your past to your present. We deal with financial literacy. We deal with goal and vision setting. We deal with it all. Anything social or generational or root causes that hold people back from getting to their next. And at the point of trauma, people stop growing. So if I'm 60 years old and I had a trauma in 7 that I didn't get addressed, I still act out of that 7-year-old little girl or little boy. So we deal with all of that so that when they do move, they can be whole and not carry that trauma with them. After 8 weeks, they graduate. And we have had some amazing results in 8 weeks. They're each followed with a mentor. We call them guiders that follow them the whole 8 weeks as an accountability partner, as a guider. If they get off track, they guide them back to where they need to be. And we've graduated to date 58 people.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Including Ron Shea.
Including Ron Shea.
It was a great story because Rob Levitt is the reason that God
Rob
Levitt.
Rob is great.
Rob put us together. I've been working with Rob with creating communities for 15 years probably.
Right. He's breathing a little bit easier now.
He's the one that basically put us together, and he knew what I did, and he knew what Toni did, and it was an instant light bulb. Said you got to get a hold of Toni, and that's the first time he gave me her number. And she said yes the minute I said I had 10 laptops just sitting there?
Yeah, it's definitely a need. So I partner with Co-op Arundel, which is Yasmin Jameson.
Right.
She's the nonprofit. And, we get grants as much as we can. But our first program, we had no money. But we knew it had to start, and we started it. But Tim's organization, Geeks on God, actually reaches outside of that. Because it's people who aren't in the program who also has needs, who I work with, that are able to benefit from the use of his computers and laptops.
And she makes that decision as to who gets what.
So back onto Geeks on God, though. I mean, let's just say that I'm working for a company and they give me a computer and a laptop and everything else, and then I get laid off or fired and terminated, the position's eliminated, and I'm jobless, and I'm looking for jobs, and I don't have a computer, and I don't have an income coming in at this point and stuff like that. Is that something that
we don't have a lot of criteria when it comes to our benevolence? It really doesn't matter.
So it's a need?
Well, I just don't interview the need that hard. Now I have somebody like Toni who actually she knows the needs, and I trust her implicitly. She's my sister in Christ, so I know that she's got that covered. I don't ask a lot of questions. I've always felt that if you give,
You get.
and it's God's purview from that point forward what happens. I don't see anybody taking advantage of this. It's not like I'm advertising massive amounts of a truckload of laptops.
Sure. I mean, I guess what I was getting at was somebody, and you had said it's not necessarily people within your organization, but I mean, if there was somebody that was, for lack of a better word, down on their luck or whatever, and a computer would change their life or their trajectory.
We've done it. We've done it. It's happened through her, and it's happened through my group. Yeah.
So I get a lot of messengers of people I don't know with different needs, and God says meet the need. So that's what we're doing.
And that's it.
And that's what we're doing, meeting the need. So if you were calling me with that situation that you had and there was a need that was holding you back, then we would meet the need.
Right.
It's not necessarily...
That's awesome. Because you had mentioned with the mentors, you want to have everyone, the mentor through the program, through the 8-week program. And I was having a conversation with somebody a couple days ago, and I said that, with some of the problems that we're having in schools and just in our youth today, I think if everybody could just up their parental, sisterly, brotherly, guardian-y involvement a little bit more. Not a huge thing. I mean, I'm not saying you need to be the baseball dad.
It has great impact. It has massive impact on
just
so many
levels.
Just a little
bit.
Absolutely.
It provides witness, for one thing. If it happens to one person, they're going to tell, just like if you go to a great restaurant, you're going to say, wow, man, you have no idea. This Geeks on God guy gave us a computer for free.
Yeah. And it just opens the door.
And we've worked with Tyler Heights in Ward 6 for years. We've had a ministry in Tyler Heights for 10 years now. And I do career day there, and I talk to the 4th and 5th graders about what it is to have a career. And every single time I do that, at least one of the kids comes up to me and says, I've got a computer at home that's broken and we can't get working. And so now you have to go through some channels there. You have to go through the school, and there are all these metrics involved. But I've visited homes and fixed computers for these kids that come up and tug on my pant leg at the end of the career day thing and say, we've got a computer that doesn't work. Can you help us? And so we do things like that, too. I mean,
do you primarily work with youth, Toni?
So I work with everybody, but my focus, because of the totality of people who work with youth, in my mind is if we can empower the guardians and the parents and the grandparents who are taking care of that youth, some of the things that we're seeing now out in the streets, a lot of the violence, we can curtail. Because now we're rebuilding them, if you will, building human infrastructure, because some people didn't get it all, right? No. So now we help them to give them another chance. So now when I go to parent, I'm parenting differently because now I know. So I like to deal with the parents first, because if I deal with the parents first and I get them straight, I don't have to deal with the kids, because now you're empowered enough.
You're going to pass it off, and they're going to rub off of you and onto them, and they're going to be able to take care of it.
Yes.
The kids. And this will go back to probably a mutual friend of ours, but Robert Eads. Yeah. And I mean, his whole thing was, of course the kids are going to be getting in trouble. I got in trouble when gosh knows he did, and. But he was like, these kids are going to get in trouble because you don't give them anything to do. And, whether it be recreation, whether it be programs, whether it be jobs, whether it be a computer or something like that, to be able to be accessed,
absolutely.
And that's one of the great success stories we should mention Ron Shea. Ron Shea is an incredible example of what has happened through our partnership and what she does now. And Rob recently retired from creating communities, and she's basically taken it over. And Ron Shea was a student of Toni's. She got one of my laptops, and by the grace of God, she is guiding this amazing community effort. Now, she rebranded it, right? Just a little bit.
So actually, she didn't get one of your computers. Okay. She got one of the other computers.
All right.
But yeah, she's a liaison for the creating communities now. I think Maryland Hall.
Maryland Hall is the base now.
She has a nonprofit herself. I think it's a nonprofit or a for-profit, Mega Youth, where she deals directly with youth. So now she's empowering the youth. So just to empower these women to see that there's greatness. Because some of them are stunned for whatever reason, but to see that blossom and open up. and to see now I can go back and parent my children and to accept that I've done some things wrong and now I got to redo some things. It's a different generation.
You know, I was doing some mock interviews at Annapolis High a couple weeks ago, and one of the questions I threw out was, tell me about a challenge in your life and how you overcame it. And this one kid just absolutely blew my mind. Usually they're going, oh, gosh, I don't know. And this one guy says, oh, that's easy. He says, last year, early in the year, my girlfriend got pregnant. And I had my life, what I thought was, I was going to be a landscaper. I was going to, own a business and everything else. But now that all changed. And I realized I had to do the right thing. I had to be a dad. I had to do, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's heady stuff for a 16-year-old. And he goes on, he says, okay, and that was my challenge. And then, how I handled it is I reevaluated my life. I was the dad. I was there for for my daughter and everything else. He says, 3 months ago, I found out that the child wasn't mine. And he said, now I've got a whole other moral issue here. I've raised this child, I've supported and everything else for this. But he also said, I'm sitting here looking, I'm 17 years old, and this is an opportunity, not, and not to say I'm walking away from responsibility, because, I guess biologically it's not his responsibility. Mm-hmm. But he said, I've got another God-given opportunity to turn around and get my life back on that trajectory of where it was. And, he says, I'm still part of their life, but I am not, and I don't know how the explanation went, but he worked through it with the mother and I'm presumably the father, because there must have been a paternity test or something going on, and, whoever's raising the children, but he's able to get his life back on track, which is an amazing story when you sit there and you realize that here your potential at age 16 went in the trash can. And you got a chance to get it back. And I wish more kids would understand the potential that every single one of them has. And, no, we're all not going to be Bill Gates or Zuckerberg, or not that we'd ever want to be, but, or this big fancy CEO. But we all have that potential that's in us.
And that's a great thing about what Toni's doing, because she's focusing on getting the parents schooled and realigned and whatnot, so that they can transfer that onto the children, and it has tremendous impact on our community. And I hate to use that term, but 1,000 points of light. It's akin to that. If more of us would do just a little bit more of that, just this much more, right? Just this much, and we try.
The best things are built out of adversity, right? So. Because I'm a firm believer, my faith is with God. He tells me to be like Him, I have to suffer like Him, right? So I'm going to suffer some things. I'm going to have to go through some things. So we teach that. You're going to go through some things. You're not going to come through these 8 weeks and everything is going to be grand, glorious. Right. And, you're going to absolutely just change. But it's a process. And some people weren't taught about the process. So now we have 40, 50, 30-year-old women in here learning about the process and changing their lives to possibly make it better for their kids, because some of the kids are lost after that. And so now we have to go back and retrain them. And if we have enough money to put into physical infrastructure, we should have that much more to put into human infrastructure. And that's what we're doing. We're building human infrastructure.
Without doubt. But you've also got my brother's key.
So yes, I'm so excited about that.
That's another
fairly new, isn't it?
So it's actually supposed to be launched in March. Okay. March of this year. MSK will be finished, and we're going to possibly launch MBK. And MBK is focused around the same thing, but the focus is men, and men will be leading it. We have 3 core men that, we've identified who have a lot of the life experiences of the men that they'll be dealing with. And, as we get women whole, we're going to get the men whole, and then we're going to just bring families back together, because that's what it's about anyway. Families coming together, healthy.
You're a lifer here in Annapolis, right?
Lifer, yeah.
I'm still a newcomer. I've only been here about 25, 26 years. I love how things have changed. There's a lot of things that's remained the same, and a lot of things that need to change, and a lot of things that are still, very bad about it. Mm-hmm. And that sounds really bad to say that, but there are some things that are bad that need to change. But I love that a lot has changed in the most recent years. I'm seeing, as exactly what you're doing, the empowerment of the kids. You're seeing when I was talking to these kids at Annapolis High, which has really seen some demographic shifts there. I mean, it used to be, primarily, it used to be segregated, but I mean, it was, primarily, it was primarily white with a minority black, and then it sort of evened out a little bit, then the Hispanic, and now it's about a third, which is really interesting, and just to see that the successes that some of them are coming out of. I know, you've got the Hood to Good over at Maryland Hall. You've got. I'm trying to think of the other programs. I mean, certainly Creating Communities was a part of that, but to be able to bring these things, you look at what Box of Rain is doing with over at the Annapolis Maritime Museum, and all these didn't exist before, and it's because I don't know why it wasn't but maybe we just didn't believe in our youth.
Well, I think the reason you see a lot of this evolving because a lot of us are connecting together, right? So the people who has the needs and had the relationship with the people that need the needs are teaming up with people who don't necessarily have the needs, but have the resources we need. So now we're teaming up. I teamed up with, Charting Careers.
Right.
And I created a program, Community Hubs, where we got leaders in each community to be the navigators in their community to build support services around the families.
That's great.
Right? So it's about connecting, putting our differences to the side and connecting together for the better cause of the world. And I think that's how it's getting better because now we're not so much separated. We're trying to connect to see how this thing is going to be beneficial for all of us.
And it is being beneficial for all of us. I mean, you look at the growth of other nonprofits. You got Seed for Success. You've got STARE, Start the Adventure in Reading. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
Even the Annapolis Police Foundation.
It's helpful to have these partnerships, and it's imperative that we have these kind of partnerships. Geeks on God works with Bernie House. With Patty Slaughter's group, and we've given resources to them too. But it's important for these relationships to know each other. Otherwise, we can't do anything. We end up being silos.
Absolutely.
So I'm so grateful for Rob for bringing us together because
absolutely.
Because it expands. You can see it expand. I mean, Riva Trace Baptist Church, we don't have a ministry at Tyler Heights anymore. Now Tyler Heights has gotten funding and has been rehabbed and whatnot. But we don't necessarily need to go in there anymore because the teachers seem to be more self-sufficient. But we were there for about 10 years after hours helping them out, which is a weird ministry in that it's a municipality, but they have needs. I mean, they have massive amounts of needs, and you can't ignore that. I mean, you can't just turn a blind eye to that. So
you just meet the need.
I mean, we had an umbrella ministry at Tyler Heights where, because they were in trailers, I mean, between trailers and between classes, if it's raining, what happens? You get wet. So Riva Trace, we must have got 200 umbrellas for them one year.
Is that where you worship at Riva Trace?
I primarily worship Riva Trace.
Okay.
Baptist.
So when you talk about ministry, I mean, it's sort of an outreach of
small groups within that church, and Tyler Heights Ministry was one of them.
Okay. Do you have a website, Toni?
So yes, my website is peoplebuildersconsulting.com.
And that has all the information on MSK and
that has all
MBK?
the information, everything that I can do. We haven't put MBK on there yet because we haven't.
It's not here yet.
We don't have the date yet, but it's coming. The men are excited. It's definitely needed, and if we can crack that cookie, I think we'll be really putting a dent in something.
Tim, you're pretty isolated as far as what you do. Pretty pigeonholed. You repair computers and you get them out, and knowing that they're.
This is a side hustle. This isn't entirely a side hustle.
No. I get that, but I mean, how much can you handle?
It's a good question. I don't really know. I'd like to find out.
I haven't hit there yet.
I haven't hit there yet.
You ready to find out, Tim?
I hope. I've been praying that this, especially after Christmas here, that it might yield some fruit.
What's the criteria for donating a computer? Is there an age?
It just needs to be Windows 7 compatible or higher. That's
Windows 7?
At least from a PC standpoint.
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
Just because you can't, anything older than that, I can't really do my magic with. And there's not a ton of magic. I mean, largely we upgrade the hard drives and add some memory. And through donations over the years, I've got
lots of memory,
lots of hard drives. And I scavenge. I scavenge a lot. I actually partner with the convenience center down in Sudley in South County. And I actually cherry pick some of the stuff that's donated to electronics recycling down there, and so I can get parts. I can get parts from there. So about once a month I go down there and see what I can find.
That's awesome. So you haven't hit your ceiling yet. You're not quite sure what your ceiling is.
No, and I haven't pushed this to some place where I want to get big. I mean, I'm happy with just focusing on the local community.
Well, there's got to be such a huge need on that, though. I mean, as I look at all the kids that struggled through COVID with the Chromebooks that don't belong to them, I mean, I guess they have to go back to
It's not just hardware either, John. I mean, it's also training. I mean, I helped do the networking at the new Lighthouse shelter on Hudson years ago, and I haven't done it in a while, but I would go in there about once a month and just do general training on how to look for a job online. A lot of people don't know how to do that, especially if you're challenged at this level. You certainly don't have the bandwidth to even focus on how to do with that. So that's another thing that we provide. I mean, I provide training and support and just the basics, the most basic things about how to. We all take it for granted. You Google,
we do.
I need a job.
Yes.
But it's actually not simple for a lot of these folks at all, especially if you have no computer skills. You don't even know where to put your hands on the keyboard. And that exists. That really exists.
Well, Tony, you mentioned briefly about like reentry as people coming back in from prison and stuff like that, I think. And that's another sort of a bug up my butt that we don't do enough. And that, there's a story of Anne Arundel County out in Severn, Odenton Way. One time there was a sex offender that served 10 years, I think it was, in a Texas prison, was released, played by all the rules, reported it and everything else and said, hey, I'm here and this and that and so on and so forth. Police went out to the neighborhood, handing out flyers with pictures on them saying, hey, if he comes to your neighborhood, this is what he did. And I'm like, that's so anti of whatever. I mean, you've paid your debt, okay? So if that debt wasn't paid, then that's a problem with the judicial system, not necessarily with what it was. I mean, you played by the rules and you've now ruined this guy's life a second time.
Re-traumatized.
What's that?
It's re-traumatic.
Yeah,
You're re-traumatizing people over and over.
It really was. But you look at these folks that come in, and I use the example when I talk to other people, saying, say somebody was in jail for, 30 years ago, it could have been for some weed, for 20 years. And you come out, and to your point, Tim, what's this thing you've got in your hand that you're tapping on? I mean, they totally missed the whole fax revolution.
Absolutely. So a lot of people use their phones because you can do everything on the phones,
virtually,
right?
just about.
But then some things you can't do on a phone. It's easier on a laptop. So to be able to have access to that is huge in them moving forward.
Life changing. How many are in your each? Do you have a class, a cohort?
Each class is 15. So we only take 15 because some of the information that is being shared in there, we want to make sure that it's a safe environment. Because things that are being shared, if you mess up that safety net, then we've lost them again. So we keep it small. I know God is going to expand it. I don't know how, but once He says it's time to expand, either we'll duplicate more of me.
We're talking about vulnerable people that need a safe place to be. Mm-hmm. They've got to feel comfortable. They got to feel secure and everything else. I mean, what types of things might be not? I mean, are we talking about? Hey, this is. I'll throw it out. Hey, I had to sell drugs to make ends meet last week. Is that something that may be discussed during your program that you feel safe with the group that you're in, as opposed to having it's
called accountability.
People. And going, oh my gosh, Tony was selling drugs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you're dealing with a lot of people who, first of all, know each other, who may have been in conflict with each other. And so you're trying to bring them together and understand, guess what? It's not you that you are hating. It's the behaviors that they brought along. So we're honoring all of that out in there with them together. And yes, they may share something like that. They may share some other really deep secret stuff that if 50 people are in there, you have a better chance of it staying within this threshold with 15 than 50. And so we've been very successful with the smaller groups right now. Will we ever move to bigger groups? I don't know. But the success that we're finding with the smaller groups right now, we're going to keep it at that.
That makes sense. I mean, I think I'm much more comfortable in a smaller group and divulging whatever. I mean, I would have to think, go back to the old like AA meetings or something like that. I would think in a group of 7 or 8 would be probably more ideal for me to let my hair down, so to speak, and be honest, as opposed to a group of 100. I'd be like, yeah, I'm here because they told me.
It is not terribly hands-on. I mean, Geeks on God has worked with a group down at First Presbyterian called SOUL, Society of Hope and Love. They offer safe space on Thanksgiving and Christmas and some other days where people with addiction issues have a real challenge during that day to stay sober for that day. So Maura Harford is the gal that runs that thing. We've partnered with them too, but they're very hands-on, whereas AA is kind of a general program. It's been my observation anyway.
Yes.
So it helps to have a little higher level of mentorship. And there are groups out there that do it, like SOUL, SOHL. They do this kind of stuff, and we partnered with them, and it works.
Yeah.
We see the results.
Part of MSK, the way we get the next partners, so the mentees are called partners. So we call the mentors guiders, and we call the mentees partners, because we want them to feel like they're partnering in their recovery or their plan or their journey for their life. We don't want them to feel like we're the hierarchy over them. So we're guiding them. The way that we get our next class is that one of their responsibilities is to recommend the next woman. So by the time that class is over, probably before the next week, we have our cohort of next women that are going to be coming through the class.
Because chances are that they know somebody that
Yes.
needs the help, and you guys are so right that it's just about the mentoring. It's,
Well, and then you create skilled disciples to go on and carry on the cross, basically,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
And it happens. It just takes a little. It doesn't take as much effort as a lot of people think. It takes caring. It takes this,
Time.
right?
Time,
it takes
right?
heart. It takes
that a lot of people don't have.
I mean, one thing that Toni and I have a lot in common is that we have a spiritual gift for giving in this way. I mean, I feel compelled to do it, and I have for a
Yes.
long time. All we're trying to do is just share our spiritual gifts.
That's right.
Because we care,
That's right.
right? And we care unconditionally. Unconditionally.
and it doesn't, as you said, it doesn't take much.
It really doesn't. But it
Just-
takes something. You got to start somewhere.
Yep.
You just
It-
you
it's-
tell a
it's-
kid that's going down the wrong road, hey, you're going down the wrong road, and I'm concerned for you.
And you took time. It's about relationship. And that, I believe that's what we've gotten away from, relationship, right? All somebody needs is for you to acknowledge that, hey, you're going through something. You got a problem. Let's talk for a little while. They open up to you about anything. But life is so fast now. Everything is so fast, right? Pop it in the microwave. Get on the phone. You can find it like that. But nobody's sitting down taking the time to build relationship. And if we want to get this world right, we got to go back to relationship. And that's what it's all about for
Amen.
us.
Amen.
Peoplebuildersconsulting.com.
Yes.
That's where we can find out about that. We don't have a website for
Maybe you can put me on a spot on
Geeks on God,
Annapolis.
but if anybody has any computers out there that are collecting dust, and I mean, I had at one point, and I wish I had known about you, because I know as my kids grew up older and they got it, I mean, I think I probably threw out more than I would care to admit. They're usable. Windows 7 and above, get in touch with me. I will more than happy get you together with Tim to get that, to fix them, and to pass them off to Toni, who's going to be doing cohorts of 15 men starting in March with my brother's keeper as well as my sister's keeper. You guys are doing great work. It's quiet work. It's needed work. And it's life-changing work. It really is. I mean, exactly what you're doing, Toni, as far as being able to mentor these children, and I keep saying children, that's sort of like in my mindset, but it's not. It's, it's children, it's young adults, it's older adults, I'm sure.
Families.
Yes, and families. Yeah.
What's your youngest and oldest, do you know?
So we start at 18, so our youngest will be 18.
Okay.
But our oldest has been 62. And that's such a blessing, right?
Is no time limit on when you can reinvent yourself and change things up for a better way. Thank you guys so much for your time, and
We appreciate
good luck.
the
I will
venue.
make sure that all the links are on the show notes, so click on there, learn out more about Toni's organization. Contact me if you've got computers. Again, the holidays have just passed. People got new laptops. Do you do PCs at all?
There's really virtually no demand for PCs, and I've actually got PCs in inventory that I can't seem to get rid of. So
Fair enough.
I think it's fair to say now that laptops are really the only thing that's going to be of any value, and it's something that somebody can actually hold, which is a tangible asset in of itself. When you give somebody their own laptop, there's some ownership portions of that. So no, I really can't take desktops. But if anybody has any equipment that you can't donate, don't forget that we have electronics recycling in Millersville and down in Sudley in South County, and they'll gladly take it. Yeah, so you don't have to throw it away.
Thank you guys for doing the quiet work, quietly and strongly behind the scenes. It is, you don't see it, but you feel it, which is kind of where I'm seeing this.
Well, we appreciate you giving us a venue to
Definitely appreciate
to advertise it.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this for a long time. So thank you, John.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.